Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Vince.
Call the seal. The seal's legit.
We've got Chris.
Wasted chili talk.
And I'm Kia. Hello, welcome to the show. Today we are talking about The Goon by Eric Powell. Oh, I love this thing. This is my recommendation here. Also, stick around for the end of the show. We're going to talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths number 9. Is that where we're at? Yeah, issue number 9.
Wow.
We'll get to that with our continuing series. We're almost at the end. We're going to get there. But yeah, of course, first we're going to talk about The Goon here, which, The Goon, I'm not sure how mainstream it is. Like, they had this movie or like a TV show they were trying to Kickstarter for a little while. It's mainly been like firmly on the side of indie comics, published by Dark Horse Comics, right? But we're not going to talk about the Dark Horse stuff. We're talking about some of the older stuff. A little bit of history of The Goon. It originally was just like a few issues published by Avatar Press. The creator, Eric Powell, from what I was able to find online, he wasn't just super happy with how they published his stuff. And so after that, he went and published it by himself. He made a little company called Albatross Exploding Funny Books with their fake president, Dwight T. Albatross. Who always has some weird, stupid rant in the back of every book. That's great. But eventually Dark Horse was just so impressed with it that they picked it up and just started publishing it themselves. So, all these issues that we are reading are from the independently published era with Albatross before it moved to Dark Horse. But Dark Horse did re-release all these issues as The Goon Volume 1. Which is nice of them to kind of keep that alive.
And you can get it as the Goon Library. I think there's 3 or 4 of them, and they have like a ton of issues in them. I think Goon Library 1 has like Volume 0 through Volume 3 in it.
It's
like
got
$27 on Amazon as of this time of recording. So it's
damn good deal.
If you want to read some Goon, that's the way to go.
Mm-hmm. So what is the Goon? We should probably talk about that a little bit, right? It's almost like a pulpy, gangstery comic with a lot of horror and comedic elements thrown in there. It's like a cross between like a pulp comic and one of my... Boy, this is going to be a terrible reference because I don't know if people out there know it, but Tales Designed to Thrizzle. I like the humor style, and especially as more and more of those weird ads with the seal show up. What
was the Tales Designed to Thrizzle artist's name? I loved him.
Michael Cooperman?
Yeah,
Cooperman.
Yeah, he's great.
So also worth talking about, Eric Powell created this thing, wrote it all himself, drew it all himself. I think his brother Robin Powell did some of like the shading and stuff and some of the coloring and helped him with that. But the art in this is beautiful. Like, I really love the way he's drawn everything. Even in these first 4 issues, there's like 4 issues and then a color special, and then when it moves to Dark Horse, it becomes all color. But even just the black and white ones are just so beautifully drawn. I really like that. It's like a pulpy, cartoony style. I don't know. How would you guys describe it?
Honestly, like, I was reading online, and they spoke that it seemed a lot like a Dick Tracy type pulp.
Yeah.
But the vibe I got, and maybe that's just because we literally read Hellboy last issue, is I got a major Hellboy vibe from this.
Yeah.
But it worked a little better for me than Hellboy has, in that it's kind of like a gruff man who, like, you don't really get much insight into his character, and then he goes on done-in-one adventures that are all kind of like horror, but like mundanity at the same time. At least for like all the villains are, they're like, there's a whole like zombie town. The first issue has like a big demon, but he's talking to a guy named Steve, but his name is written backwards. And he's just wearing like heart-shaped boxer shorts and wanting to get like pizza rolls or some shit. And it's kind of got that glib mundanity of demons and like pettiness that I really enjoy. And this clicked for me a lot more than Hellboy ever clicked for me. And Hellboy doesn't have that kind of like mundanity, but it also has a fully realized world where this kind of like supernatural would exist in it.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I really kind of thought of The Goon and wanted to do it, is because we recently did those Hellboys, and yeah, I definitely feel that strong connection between them as well. And I'm glad you brought up the mundane qualities in like the everyday living of like, oh yeah, zombies are people too, right? But it does also remind me a little bit of like The Tick and oh gosh, what's that cartoon with the superheroes?
The Venture Brothers.
Yeah, Venture Brothers. Like that same sort of style of like, yeah, these people can go about their daily lives as well, and it's a lot of fun. So should we just, let's jump right into the story and see what's going on. Like Vince said, these are all one and done issues for the most part. And even though there were a few issues that came before this, the first one, issue number 1, does a pretty good job of setting things up pretty cleanly here. We meet the main bad guy of the series, who is mainly only in this issue and the next one, but he is the Nameless Man, a.k.a. the Zombie Priest. And he's got a bunch of zombies working for him, and he's trying to track down the location of like the main boss of the city, Labrazio. And his main sort of hump in all this is the Goon, who is Labrazio's right-hand man. And like we see this zombie priest who's doing like all these rituals. Like you said, he's meeting that demon Steve. He's trying to reanimate heads that know where this guy's at. Meanwhile, the Goon is just at a bar beating up a spider over $5.
That spider is wearing a little bowler hat and cheating at poker. It's amazing. It's really cute. I honestly, like, structurally, I would have started with this scene rather than like the demon scene. I would have started.
I agree. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah,
especially because it's an issue 1. Then you're not expecting your readers to have known like the other obscure volume from a different publisher. I would have started with the Goon because it's a pretty good page, and then he beats up a spider with a little bowler hat, and then it's like, well, why were you beating him up? Because he owes somebody money. How much was it? $5? And you're like, okay, now I got the tone of this book like instantly, like in 2 or 3 pages. So I feel like if you're not on board in that, you're not going to be on board.
I think that's the right call. Yeah. And so, there's creatures being animated, Goon fights, blah, blah, blah. Like pretty good fight sequences as well. I really like that page where the Goon gets stabbed with like a radio antenna. Like it really kind of caught me off guard. Like, oh my gosh. And eventually, go ahead.
What's the name of the Goon's like sidekick friend?
Frankie. That guy.
Yeah,
so much character.
Looks like Terrence and Phillip.
He does a little bit. Yeah, his eyes are just so different from every other character in the book.
It kind of reminded me of the Spirit, but instead of being racist, it's just like he's just a cartoon character in a world where everyone else is a normal-looking guy, but he's a cartoon.
It's great. He's such a, he's the character with... I was thinking about this. It's so strange to have protagonists with such low morality. And I think this book balances it well by having the protagonist's sidekick have even lower morality so that it makes the protagonist look a little bit better. And they're still just kind of like fun to read about. It's very, very strange.
It's kind of the opposite of the Tick in that way, where Arthur is like the normal guy, but here Frankie is the most cartoonish.
Mm-hmm. So eventually in this book, the zombie priest, he gets the information he was looking for, and that is that this Labrazio boss has been dead for 20 years, and that the Goon has secretly been running the show. And he's like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to kill a dead man all this time, but the Goon is my real, hench person, whatever. Not hench person, arch person, arch hero, arch villain. Do arch villains have arch heroes? Is that what they call them?
The Venture Brothers, they call it arching, don't they?
Arching. Mm-hmm. All right, that makes sense. So that seems like equal.
But I think it's more that the monarch has decided he wants to be the arch nemesis of the hero. Is how that.
There we go. Arch nemesis. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool. That first issue, like you said, really does a nice job of kind of setting everybody up, nice relationships, and it's just fun to read too. Like it's just a pleasant reading experience for all of these, even when nothing's happening. I just love it. Puts a smile on my face. Anything else you want to say about this first one?
Powell does a really good job of showing like the Goon in movement, and also like the Goon. The way his design is he's kind of like in a wife beater. He's kind of like burly, and he's got like kind of a hat that covers his eyes. Yet he does a really good job of like making him pretty expressive. Like the Goon has like 3 emotions, so like don't get me wrong. Like he doesn't have a wide range, but it's really well done. He gets a lot of mileage out of this design, and I'm very impressed by it. He also likes to change art styles because I think he just kind of gets bored drawing.
Well, I feel like this is also a time period when he is kind of figuring the character out a little bit. because it's not 100. I should say I know I recommended these. I don't think I had read these before.
Oh, really?
I think I started with the Dark Horse comics. When they re-released these as a trade, I bought them, and like I think maybe I read them in passing, but I was already into the main series so far that I was like, oh, okay, this is just random old stuff, whatever, fun little stories, but I didn't pay too much attention to them, and I'm glad we're getting a chance to actually dive into them. But it does feel like he is still finding his way a little bit, even though it is still pretty solid.
Yeah, it just feels kind of like a little irreverent, and this is probably the least irreverent of them. But it does have like the mega body pill, like fake ad in the middle of it.
Yeah,
Which terrorists hate the mega body pill. Which this is making fun of like American paranoia post 9/11 because this is I think '02 is I don't know if we said that.
Oh yeah, it's early 2000s is when this came out.
Yeah, it is definitely like baiting the like 9/11 is sacrosanct like crowd, like definitely.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a fake ad in a later issue that is kind of tasteless, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
The crossing over or whatever, the fake psychic guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
they make some 9/11 jokes about it. It's like, okay.
Yeah, even now I'm like, but the way that he just kind of like, I mean, this is not so much, but like he'll have a lot of shorts. Like extra stories, like I think there's one at the end of the first issue here, but then like it'll just like cut out, like the story will like unplug from a TV and then we'll just have another page of a different story for no reason. And that just feels to me like a guy who's just kind of like fucking around because he's having fun.
Yeah, because why not? Especially if he's publishing it himself, right? Do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know anything about Powell's artistic influences, but I do definitely feel like there's like a line where there's like Will Eisner, Jack Kirby, and then like some anime or manga that I don't know, and that those things have been combined because there's a lot of like the spirit. There's the Goon basically looks like the Thing in his human form.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm like, there's a lot of Jack Kirby here, but then like I feel like there's no other superhero stuff. It's all like weird like pulpy fantasy stuff.
Yeah, especially the cover of the second issue has that super like old Tales to Astonish kind of cover to it, which I always really love those kinds of stuff.
And this is a good one because it says because you demanded it, cannibalism. It's a good cover.
And this issue really surprised me. I didn't know it was going to take already just such a quick turn and do a totally different style with this one, because we get the shocking origin of the Buzzard, who is like this great zombie character they run into who's kind of fighting the other zombies and eating them. We should also say that this whole thing starts off with them getting set up by a guy. He's trying to unload a van, and he says, "All right, I'll give you $30 for this truck." And he's trying. What's that guy trying to sell?
A truck full of Mexican porn.
Yeah, like Tijuana Bibles,
right?
But he's like, you said 40 on the phone. He's like, no, I'm paying you 20.
I love that stuff.
And then he opens it up, and it's a setup, and there's just zombies.
Oh my god!
I'm like, yes, well played.
I love when the zombie is like, he's under our protection now, and then the Goon just throws a brick at the guy who looks like a Bob's Burger character. He's just got like a big beanie and glasses.
Yeah, he looks like Teddy.
His glasses are just split by a brick hitting him in the face, and then the zombie's just like, ooh.
Oh man. So they run into this Buzzard guy who helps them defeat these zombies, and of course starts nibbling on their fingers. But we get this whole like kind of it's not really pencil drawn, but it has like that pencil drawn feel to it. Like it's a whole backstory to this guy and how he used to be the sheriff of some town, and the zombie priest came in like pretending to be some guy who was going to solve everybody's problems. Turned out to be a charlatan, brainwashing everybody. And so the Buzzard is sort of like, cursing this guy for ruining his town, killing his family, all that stuff. It's a really like kind of more sentimental than I would have already expected them to do so quickly.
Right.
Which it kind of reminded me of The Sixth Gun, which is a series I never really got into, but I was just like, oh, we're gonna do like zombie Western stuff, huh? So that's kind of what I know that from.
Okay.
See, structurally to me, it felt like like your Sandmans or your Constantine's or where it just is like, we've done 8 pages of a story, and now it's time to do an 8 to 9 page, completely different story and a completely different art style. Like, let me tell y'all a story. But it works well. It works well, and it was a good story. I also really like. There's a really good line from the Buzzard, and I don't know why I like this line so much, but he's narrating it, and right before he's about to be cursed by the zombie priest, he goes, I've had years to ponder the next few events, and I really like that line. Like, he's like reflecting on the story. And like what he could have done, what he could not have done. Was this a good thing? Was this a bad thing? Like, there's a lot baked into that line that I really like, just appreciate. And I don't know why that line stuck with me. It's just a really. I don't know if it's just a good storytelling line, but it's just like it says to me. It feels very realistic for like those like key moments in your life. You're like, and you just keep going back to them. Like, yes, yeah. Okay, like, and how did else could it have played differently? It's just really interesting to me.
Right.
I think. Go ahead.
And the Buzzard is very much like a Jonah Hex type of like, flawed, like Western sheriff type guy, where he's like, I should have killed myself, but instead I got bloodlust and I had to kill everybody.
Yeah, I like I really like that last page of this story where he just sort of goes into the fray, fighting wave after wave of zombies, and it's just like it's just shadows of him as the horde closes in on him. I really like that page.
Yeah, it was frustrating though because there's no resolution to that story.
There is no resolution. I know the Buzzard will show up later if you do keep on reading through the Goon. He'll be back, don't you worry. So resolution is he's not dead. Don't worry. That's it.
Yeah, instead, it's a fake ad for a Silver Age character called the Atomic Rage.
Yes. There's one of these ads later where it's like the Atomic Rage versus testicular cancer. That made me giggle for sure.
Yes, a faith healer tries to help his testicular cancer.
Yeah. We also do get a little backup story in this one. Totally different art style, drawn by Shannon Gallant. Just a fun little story with some cool-looking ghouls. It was a hag. Yeah, it was an evil witch. And, yeah, Goon beats him up and then makes all the kids he saved run a sweatshop. Good stuff. Good stuff. That's what the Goon's all about. So our next issue...
And then that second issue, the fake owner of Albatross Comics or whatever, has a whole page-long thing about chili. And then the comics artist responds to it being like, thanks for wasting our time with all this chili talk.
Good stuff. I also love that ad for the Goon shirt with the kid who's wearing the hat with his eyes covered just like the Goon. It's a good little ad. I would have bought a shirt.
I love that ad. I have to imagine that's Pal's kid.
Probably, but I don't actually even know if he has a kid.
There's a story that's words by an 8-year-old. And this next issue. And I'm like, that looks like an 8-year-old. It is a good image though, because the hat covers the kid. Mm-hmm. The kid's a good little actor in that picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's got his like jaw offset, kind of said to be asymmetrical, like the Goon.
It's perfect. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. It's a great little ad.
The T-shirt design is a little too busy though. I wouldn't buy that.
I wouldn't either.
That's true. Did I have a Goon shirt? I think I did have a Goon.
I don't know. You definitely had a lot of Goon volumes, although I get it confused with like David Lapham's Stray Bullets when I think about the bookshelf.
No, you know what? I think I know which one. It's a page from the Color Special. I had it on a shirt. We'll get to it when we get to it. But I think this next one was actually my favorite, the Christmas issue, number 3, where there are these little monsters with like these weird beards and like they're basically just heads with hands growing out of them and legs growing out of them. And weird beards, and they are eating people. Like their mouths grow giant and cartoonish, and they swallow people whole. And it's good stuff. We got our Christmas party going on at the bar. Frankie's trying to trade a kid his new present for a pig's head. I think this is my favorite conversation. The kid's like, "Where'd you get that pig head?" And he says, "That don't concern you. You trading or not?" Well, that is a mighty fine pig head. Yeah. And he makes the trade. Good stuff.
Yeah, I do like that they don't show you the actually making the trade, but just later he's wearing the kid's helmet.
Yeah, it's like perfect storytelling, I think. Use your visuals, right? But some mom comes in and she's like, "Oh, my babies have been eaten. And so the Goon and Frankie get on their werewolf friend, and they go right out into the woods to find these things. And we have ourselves a fun little fight. The werewolf is too scared of these little guys, but and after a little bit, Santa Claus shows up and tells them to get back to work because those little guys, of course, were Santa's elves. And I love that reveal, and for whatever reason, I don't know if you guys saw it coming. I just wasn't thinking about it. I didn't see it coming at all, and I loved it. I thought it was fucking great. What about you guys? Are these the elves you've pictured in Christmas mythology? Remember, I'm not Christian, so maybe you guys know that these.
Yeah,
are
100%. These are exactly the same elves that are in than Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. No, I like it. I like the idea of like fucking with your mythology. Like these are the real elves. I like this issue. This is a cute issue. I actually even like the world building at the beginning because the kids are talking about like what Christmas toys they want, and the boy mentions the one of the toys from the fake ads in the previous issue.
Does he? I didn't even notice that.
The little Firestorm the Nuclear Man parody. That's what he says he wants, and I'm like, nice little bit of world building here. I like this.
Nice. Yeah,
little things. Yep. It's the little things that I really appreciate about this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the little elf monsters. They're like, is that the saint? When they see the Goon coming, and they're like, oh, it's not the saint. And then you find out it's Saint Nick.
Yeah. That was great. I also like that all the people they ate are still fine because they swallowed them completely whole. And so Santa Claus just picks them up and shakes them, and the bodies come falling out of their tiny little heads.
Yeah. Also, maybe my favorite, it's actually 2 panels. But when his sidekick, Frankie, is like, hey, if you exist, how come you never brought me nothing? And Santa's like, because you're a rotten little shit, that's why. And he just kind of stares off into space, and he's like, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. I feel like I say good stuff way too much, but when it's good stuff, it's good stuff.
Indeed.
Issue number 4. Boy, this one. Good stuff. It is The Mesmerist.
This is like a Vampirella cover.
It really is. Again, totally different style to the cover. It is I said mesmerist. It's a bizarrist. Ooh. Frankie is taking his girlfriend Stella to go see this bizarrist named... what's his name? Draxton Entity? Was that it? A great name on this guy. Oh, also worth mentioning the girlfriend Stella. We never see her face for some reason. I guess it's just that comedy of oh, how is this cartoon character dating such a hot woman? Whoa!
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Nanny from Muppet Babies.
Yeah, it's it's fun to have a weird character like that goes with the short, weird cartoon character.
Or what was the Miss Bellum from Powerpuff Girls?
Oh yeah. The
mayor's secretary or assistant or whatever she was.
Just like that, and she was also always sort of the sexual character, right? People, I don't know, similar to that.
Yeah. Look, just believe me.
I do believe you.
I do like the issue 4. We cut to the Goon. We see this guy's date, and we obviously the mesmerist is evil, blah blah blah. But then what's the Goon up to?
He's fighting a cow. Yeah.
He's fighting a cow and basically sumo wrestling a cow because it's first out of the circle loses.
Yeah. I just love all the characters that hang out in the bar. They just look like such drunken slobs, and the way he draws these characters' faces, it's the best. But also the cow's eating grass, and it's got this cross-eyed look to it. It is I kind of feel sorry for this cow a little bit, but at the same time, hey man, you stepped into the circle. You knew what you were in for. So
I love the guy in the background who, obviously the Goon was the heavy favorite in this fight.
The one who bet on the cow?
But the guy in the background is this is the last time I bet on that cow.
So while the Goon is fighting this cow, Frankie is getting hypnotized. Stella goes to the bathroom, and Frankie gets disappeared. The whole crowd also gets hypnotized. So they're like, oh, you're not going to remember any of this. And Stella gets back, and oh, geez, Frankie walked out on her. How dare he? So she comes running to the Goon, complaining about it. And Goon's like, well, that's not like Frankie. All right, I got to go check this out. The carnival owner has been, like, tied up, and his head's been all fucked with. Like, what is that? It looks like it's, I don't know.
Real gross.
Real gross. And Frankie's been tied up. Turns out the mesmerist, I keep calling him a mesmerist, the bizarrist, his little sidekick ladies are harpies. Oh my goodness, like actual bird creatures who are going to eat Frankie. And this bizarrist has been under their spell the whole time, but Goon doesn't care. Still smashes his head in, destroys this like jewel that's on his head. Poor guy turns into a skeleton. The harpies go up in flames. Frankie is saved, but can't say anything to his girlfriend, right? Because you can't tell him these hot ladies were like rubbing up on him while he was not fair. And then and after all that, we get our wonderful ad for the psychic seal. Vince, I'm positive that you called this seal, right? The psychic
only
seal.
An utter moron would call a criminal lawyer. This ad. This is fucking Michael Cooperman, Tales Design of Thrizzle. This is the fabulous nut bra. This is the holy shit, fuck shit ladies. This is the bra for you.
This is great.
I love Tales Design of Thrizzle. I was thinking about like nominating that for next episode, and I'm like, I don't understand. I don't know how we would possibly do that.
We would just laugh at all the jokes on the podcast, and that would make for great podcasting.
He did have a fake. This is changing out, but he did have a fake Mark Twain autobiography.
I have that.
It's
great.
Pretty funny, yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, 1900 to 2000.
Yeah.
I love that seal, though. That seal cracks my shit up. And then he goes into the backup story. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. And his backup story.
This was my favorite of the backup stories. Usually I don't read backup stories because I'm kind of like, it just can't be established itself. And I think even it's either this one or the other one. Like, oh, yeah, this is the one that says, this sounds like a bad science fiction story someone crammed into 3 pages.
Well, it's also like because this one is about some aliens attacking from wherever. By the way, I gotta say, my favorite panel of this whole thing is this one-eyed scumbag from outer space. Best design of anything. He's like a giant eyeball with a hat on top of the eyeball, and like his head is so big, it's like coming out of the suit. Like I love the design on this character.
Yeah, that he's still wearing a 3-piece suit, even though he's an alien monster with a giant eyeball.
Yes, and he's like, "Yeah, see, I'm running this burg now, yeah." And it turns out he is susceptible to water. Oh no! And once a scientist comes in and is like, "Oh, even though our planet is mostly hydrogen," and I was like, "Oh, he's just making fun of M. Night Shyamalan and Signs," and I love it. Great. Because this was right around when Signs came out too, right?
Mm-hmm. 2002 is when that film was released.
Yeah, July. So that's right around this time frame.
Yeah, very topical. Very topical. But in the middle of this adventure, they go see the psychic seal, and Frankie doesn't like what he hears, and he just punches that seal, knocking its little psychic turban thing right off his head. Good stuff.
I do love, maybe as we're describing that joke of like having a scientist come in and be like, water is very common. This is a very stupid idea. But I really do like the way that the last page uses negative space in that it's literally like it basically cuts the last panel in half where it's just the Goon, the scientist, and Frankie staring at the reader, and then negative space of nothing.
It is in the end. Yeah.
To me, that makes the joke so much funnier. I'm just like, yeah, well.
Yeah. It's over. We're done.
Yeah, that's great.
And Frankie just looks mad at me,
He does.
He's just like disappointed.
Chris, in the original H.G. Wells War of the Worlds, what killed the aliens? Was it like they got a cold or some shit like that?
Yeah, I think that's right. They didn't have their immune systems or whatever.
Yeah, because we've developed immune systems to deal with all the
Like I don't read War of the Worlds unless Killraven is in it.
Killraven. We should do some Killraven at some point. I know nothing about that guy, so maybe we shouldn't. Uh, Great. And so, lastly, this collection has a Goon Colors special in it, which is a fine story. It's like them in a haunted house trying to recover some money, and they take real like good advantage of this art style and just do some weird like ultra green stuff all over the place, which I don't know, like reminds me of Ghostbusters. And like I just love it. I love ghosts and ghouls and weird freaky shit, and it's great. And also, there's a panel where Goon is running, driving through Squid. Right? It's like there's a whole section of the city that's like what do they call it? Like Mollusk Town or something like that. But I think this is the picture I had on a shirt of like Goon trying to shoot this octopus off of his car, saying, "I set off. Your beak's scratching the paint," and I think that's great. But yeah, this is a fun little story. They recover all the money, and Frankie promptly spends it all on Frank Sinatra's ruby-studded underwear. Oh, you boys, when will you learn?
Yeah, the goon is tricked into thinking he killed Frankie. Good stuff.
When did that? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. With the axe in his head, he thinks that happened. Yeah, ghosts playing psychic tricks on you. And eventually, when the Goon moved to Dark Horse and became a full color comic, it didn't look exactly like this. It ended up looking like a little bit more like the black and white style. And I don't know, Vince, do you want to talk about the coloring? We didn't read any of the other ones to like get a full-on comparison, but this does look super different from the other stuff.
Yeah,
I think it's the inking, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Powell seems to change art style depending on like the tone or just like however he feels. So like the first half is very much like a classic like EC Comics or I would say early Vertigo.
That's right, the whole flashback thing.
Yeah. Which like he's got a really good handle on like changing art styles. Stay tuned for what we're doing next episode. We're talking about changing art styles. But yeah, the coloring I think is okay. It seems like a waste of time to me though. I think the black and white art is perfectly fine for him.
I agreed. Yeah.
And especially because I don't think the coloring was particularly imaginative for the first few pages. So if you're talking about like, the color special, and it's like, this is kind of okay coloring, but whatever.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
I think he works better in like a black and white. He did a really good job with like a shading with black and whites. So I would prefer almost to keep it that way. But
Yeah.
I would be interested. Maybe who knows? We might revisit the Goon, but I'd be curious to hear your take when we get to some of the other stuff because I do think they ended up incorporating colors better into the art style that they already had. But that'd be a conversation for another time. So I think Chris, we heard your favorite panel. Vince, did you give us your favorite panel? Did you have one?
It's the seal.
The seal, of course, it's the seal. Forever.
I mean, there's cool moments like the Santa stuff is really cool. I really like the art style of the Buzzard stories and stuff. I really like that. It's just the panels are kind of small in this one, but there's some cool moments throughout.
Great.
It really sealed the deal for you, huh?
Seal.
Oh God.
Stolen from Breath of the Wild, 2017.
Oh shit, that's right. I did post that on my Instagram of all the seal puns.
There's seal puns in the new Zelda game.
You go to a seal town and they ask you a seal question, and all 4 of your answers are different seal puns. It's amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that.
It was like, "Do you want to do this?" It's like, "Let's seal the deal."
Yeah,
we'll have to seal.
What? That's barely a oh my God.
They were dumb.
Look, if there's 4 of them, they're not all going to be great.
Maybe they were better in Japanese. You gotta remember that.
True. All right, let's move on to the ongoing Crisis.
Crisis 10. Crisis number 9. Yeah, you guys ready for it?
No, ready for this?
Are you ready for this? So, Crisis on Infinite Earths number 9. Did anything happen in this one?
Yeah.
The bad guys teamed up.
Oh, yeah. Bad guys teamed up. We had Brainiac and Lex Luthor. They've teamed up, and they got a whole bunch of other villains to work for them as well.
I actually like this, though, because it's kind of like, they've decided, like, well, there's 5 Earths, and all the heroes are kind of preoccupied, and it's our motherfucking time to take over. And Lex Luthor's like, here's our plan. Me and Brainiac gonna rule this. And spoiler alert, there's 5 Lex Luthors. So the other Lex Luthor, one of the other Lex Luthors is like, fuck you. I'm just as smart as you. So we don't need you. I can do this. And then the first Luthor, our Luthor, like in the purple suit, kills them. And he goes, you're right. We don't need 2 Luthors. And you are just as smart as me. And I'm like, damn, this Luthor's smart. But I'm just, I like this. And then he also says, like, you speak logically, but I assembled this group, so I get the credit. We also get some, we missed the first scene where it seems like in the first scene, Guy Gardner becomes a Green Lantern, but then...
Yeah, but then they mention... Yeah, go ahead.
But then the next page is immediately, he's on Oa, he's getting the Green Lantern, and then the next page, he's immediately, like, Oa is destroyed, which makes me think like the first page was a flashback. But I got
confused with that too.
But there's nothing in the narration because you don't see Oa get destroyed. So which makes me think that the first scene was a flashback. The first page was a flashback. Second page was now. But there's nothing in the narration. There's nothing in the art style or coloring to suggest that there was a scene transition.
I think that first, like that very, like the page with the big explosion. There's like that. Globe or whatever that's starting to crack a little bit, and I think we're meant to believe that that's where we are now, but except it was never set up, so we don't really know that that's what it was. But you're right, it's very unusual. And look, I gotta be honest, I've been having a tough time with Crisis on Infinite Earth. You guys know this. Anybody who's been a regular listener of the series knows it, as this garbage truck rolls past my window roaring its disgust for Crisis on Infinite Earth as well.
Where's Wildcat?
I was thinking about that. I couldn't help but think of the whole package while I was reading this, and I was just like, we're still just jumping around. Like, where did Guy Gardner come from? What is going on? Why do I care about any of this? And I realized, like, it's doing exactly what it set out to do. It wanted to be like the biggest crossover of all time. And what was a crossover before this? It was like somebody shows up and they leave and they say, all right, check out his continuing adventures in that comic. And this is just like full of that. It's just all little vignettes. It's like it's maybe even like you could do this as like a 52 where you just do one of these little stories every week, and maybe it would have worked better for them. But this comic really just needs editor's notes of like, you can forget about this story now because we're not going to finish it, and you have to go over to this other comic to finish it. Because I was like reading the Starfire Nightwing thing, and I was like, all right, that's some good characterization right there. Ooh, but there's a secret that Starfire doesn't know. I wonder what it's going to be. And then I found myself getting interested, and then got mad because I knew it wasn't even going to happen in this comic. It was just going to happen somewhere else. And I've been having a hard time latching on to anything because I don't know what is going to be a part of the story anymore, you know?
Yeah, and it's weird. Only the last 2 issues have done this. The last 2 issues have been like, hey, why don't you check out Firestorm? Why don't you check out, what was that robot guy? I don't even remember his name. No, the hip young robot guy who's on the beach.
Oh. Blue Devil?
No. Yeah. Blue Devil.
You're right.
A lot of robot guys.
You're right. It's not like this book, like, and the thing is there's no editor notes, so maybe there were like teasing or, spinning off into other crossovers, but I feel like there weren't. I feel like this is a new concept that they've added starting with issue 8 and 9. Oh my god. But like, yeah, so there's this thing called the Warp Zone, which is pretty cool. Like, everybody's trying to get back to normal life except for, oh yeah, there's just some dinosaurs on this side of town because shit's fucked up. And I'm like, this is cool. I like this. And then Cyborg and Firehawk are back on Earth. I don't know how they got back on Earth from the last issue, but they did. Yeah. But whatever they were doing with Red Tornado is never mentioned again. Because they went into Red Tornado and they tried to fix him. That's not mentioned. Dr. Tomorrow is with the villains.
Yeah, T.O. Morrow, is just with the villains on Brainiac's spaceship.
Yeah. And then Blue Devil went somewhere, but then Flash died, so we don't care about Blue Devil. And then
he's in his own comic that no one's reading, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And then we cut to Clark Kent being an on-air news person.
Oh my god. Halfway through issue number 9 of Crisis on Infinite Earth, we are introduced to Superman. Like, they tell us who's... Oh my god.
Yeah, that's the... Oh, well, yeah, I was going to get to that, but let's do that right now. This book explains that Clark Kent is Superman.
what the fuck? Like, of all the things that you're gonna take some time out to explain to me, it's that Clark Kent is Superman. Thank you, book, very much.
Like they spend half a page explaining, like, guys, y'all really need to understand Clark Kent is Superman. Like, who the fuck is Pariah? Who the fuck is Blue Devil? Who the fuck is Red Tornado? Who is Starhawk? Why did we have a final page splash on the new Wildcat? And she's not been seen for 3 fucking issues, and she's in one panel of this book. But let's explain Superman.
She calls herself the new Wildcat as well, which I don't feel like she would call herself. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I've seen like the new White Tiger describe herself as the new White Tiger.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah. Who is Lydia or whatever her name is, formerly Harbinger.
They go to the UN.
Why do they let? I sort of get why they let Pariah talk, but why do they let her talk?
Because she knew the Monitor. I guess she knows his story.
But how do they bet something like that?
But I'm more confused because they're having a summit at the UN about because there's 5 Earths here, but the newscast is calling it the crisis on infinite Earths. When I'm like, y'all motherfuckers only know about 5 Earths. Y'all don't know about infinite Earths. Like, where did y'all get that number? Where'd y'all get that number, guys? Because y'all don't know anything. And then Pariah's logic. I've had an issue with Pariah's logic this entire book.
I don't even remember what she said. Tell me.
He says, the danger appears over because I've not been summoned elsewhere. And I'm like, dude, you are summoned where there's trouble. Wherever you are, that's where the danger is. So I would not say the logic of, well, I haven't been summoned elsewhere, so the danger's clearly gone from here. I'm like, no, that logic makes no goddamn sense. I'd feel more confident if you weren't here. If you were on a different Earth, I'd feel much better. And then he gets summoned off to some other Earth and like, oh no, it's the danger. But I still feel like, well, it's not our Earth. We're good. That's good. Not our Earth dying.
Yeah.
And then Brainiac shows up to the press conference and he's like, we're gonna give you our demands and it's like a press conference for like an Apple product. He's like, and to demonstrate what our demands are, I'm going to call Lex Luthor to the stage. And then Lex Luthor comes on.
That'll happen in this issue?
Yeah.
I don't remember any of this. This.
It wasn't Lex Luthor. It was Alexander Luthor, wasn't it?
No, it was the bad Lex Luthor. No,
you're right.
Alexander Luthor, who we don't think is related to Lex Luthor at all. That's mentioned. He shows up earlier. It's a mess. And then these villains talk about being persecuted like little fucking comic skaters. I said it.
Yeah, all right. Little comic book skaters, is that what you called them?
Comic skaters, but comic book skaters is better. I like that too. Persecuted because we have different ideas. Like, y'all are super villains. Like, y'all deserve to be persecuted. Like, it's fine.
Yep. So let's get to the cliffhanger of this issue.
You're just gonna skip right past the Doom Patrol?
The Doom Patrol, you're right. They made an appearance. We love them. We've talked about them, but they didn't be in this book. Nothing matters in this book. Come on, man.
Wild West
and the Metal Men.
The Metal Men, yeah.
Wally West is now summoned to be the new Flash.
The Flashes do some treadmill stuff for a little while. Jay Garrick shows up with Lila. I get Lila, Pariah, and Harbinger mixed up because Lila sounds like Pariah, but
they recruit though Wally West to be the new Flash because Flash died in the previous issue. But then it's really confusing because immediately on the next because they talk about Jay Garrett, and then immediately on the next page, Robin is scared about going into space, and Batman says, "Jay, it's okay," and I'm like, "Is there a typo here?" And then it took me a while to remember. Oh, this is Jason Todd, Robin.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't even catch that, but it makes sense.
But which also,
I mean, especially since Nightwing is boning, what's her name?
Starfire happens.
Starfire.
Yep.
Starfire goes to her home planet spaceship, and she's like, "This is the guy I'm boning." And he's like, "Whoa, hey, oh, whoa."
Hi, mom. Hi, Dad.
And then Brainiac's like, "Mwah, ha 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 ha," but then somebody and like the superheroes will not be able to get through, and then somebody kills Brainiac, and we're like, "Oh shit!"
Some straight up explodes. What is this?
Some superhero killed Brainiac. Who got through?
But no, it was another supervillain.
It was Simon who was mentioned
Simon,
for like
yep.
one panel earlier in this year. Was he part of the original crew?
He was.
Yeah. Okay.
We've talked about him before. Yep. We have to call him Simon so people know the P is there.
Yeah, and he was part of Dr. Light's anti-new Teen Titans group in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right.
Who turned out to be way eviler than Dr. Light and kind of like tried to steal the team from him. So it's not shocking that Mark Wolfman and George Perez, who created this guy, or at least made him a big villain, had this surprising reveal of him killing Brainiac.
Hey, I've got a question that this name reminded me of. Have you guys ever met anyone named Simon in real life? Not with a P necessarily. Hopefully not with a P. But
I did know. My name is. Oh yeah, we'll cut this. But we did have a Simon in my GT English class.
Interesting. I don't know that I've ever met a Simon in my life. As far as I'm concerned, it's a name that they made up for fiction, and it's never been a real name.
Simon
but I guess
yeah. I think the only person I knew named Simon was I forget if he was Chinese or Korean, but it wasn't his birth name, so you might be right. It was
a fictional name, yeah.
It was just him appropriating, like, this is what I think a white person's name might sound like.
Is your name Simon? Please write in us.
Yeah, if we have any fans named Simon, we're really sorry. We're genuinely just trying to get to the bottom of this. It's been a concern of ours. That's been
for 3 minutes.
Oh, really? Because I've been seeding this for 80 episodes, and I'm glad we finally have brought it to the surface here.
Yeah. And if your name is Simon, send us your drawings, and we'll take a look at them.
Oh boy, I feel bad if anybody named Simon has had to hear those jokes forever and ever. Oh well. All right. So I think, is there anything else we need to say about Crisis 9?
It's not getting better. This issue was worse than the last few.
I'm just hoping that we got super surprised with issue number 6 or 7, right? The one where all the
7.
cool stuff happened.
Yeah, the double-sided issue.
Maybe
the one that seemed like mini finale, and you're like, well, now what?
So maybe we'll end with another big all right, good stuff's happening again. But I'm not holding my breath for it. We'll see.
It doesn't get your seal of approval?
Does not get my seal of approval, not at all. Arc. All right. We got to talk about what we're doing next time, right? We're gonna do some good DC comics. Yeah. They just announced. Not that Crisis is bad. All art is good. It's good stuff. It's pretty terrible. We're doing Batwoman Elegy by Greg Rucka with art by J.H. Williams. And this is because they just announced that they cast the new Batwoman in a movie, or what is
she's
this,
in one of the Arrowverse shows. She's in one of the CW shows.
All right. At this point, is it pretty much agreed that the DC Universe TV shows are just kind of better than all their movies, or is that where we're going?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched. I've watched a few episodes of Flash, and it's fine. I
tried watching an episode of Flash and couldn't really get into it.
I mean, the joke I've heard from all these Berlanti shows, they're all produced by Greg Berlanti, is that they have 8 episodes of good spread across 22 episodes.
Interesting.
So,
all right,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I just got the DC Universe. They have kind of they're having Marvel Unlimited service. And so they're going to have, I think at launch, they're going to have either 1,000 or 10,000 DC comics available for streaming, which Marvel Unlimited had a similar number and then built up over time. But then they're putting all of DC's shows and animated movies also available for streaming through the same service.
That's cool. Yeah, especially with their animated movies. That should be cool.
Yeah, so all the Justice League movies, Death of Superman that just came out, the Wonder Woman with Kerry Russell. All that.
I wonder if they'll have their cartoons as well, like Young Justice and
Young Justice is going to be on there. I think a new season of Young Justice plus streaming comics, all for the same price of Marvel Unlimited. Fun fact: we're probably going to be doing some more DC.
All right,
because it'll be available.
Cool. That's right. Yeah, it helps us out with Marvel Unlimited being so available. Makes it easier to find.
So Batwoman Elegy.
So Batwoman Elegy. This took place in Detective Comics issues 854 to 860. What year would these have been?
Pre-New
Like-
52, but not much before it. I would say
Yeah,
like
it was like
probably
2000
09.
Yeah,
Okay.
2009 would have been my guess, somewhere in there.
Great. And yeah, Greg Rucka, probably more well known these days for all his different crime comics and stuff. Queen and Country was his other big one.
Queen and Country. He did Whiteout, if you remember, with Kate Beckinsale. He
Yeah.
wrote that
Have we
comic.
actually read any Greg Rucka for the show?
Gotham Central?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because we haven't read his Wonder Woman yet. He's jumped in and out through Wonder Woman over the last like 15, 20 years. He's good though. Lazarus, people like.
Yeah.
I love Queen and Country.
And then art by J.H. Williams, who
Promethea.
I don't... Promethea, yeah, but anything on the show that we've talked
Promethea.
about?
I did Promethea.
Well, other than Promethea?
Wait, we did Promethea?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm thinking of Planetary. I just had it mixed up in my head. Okay, yes, Promethea, my bad.
Yeah. He's a great artist.
Yes, very good
Yeah,
artist.
Desolation Jones. I don't know what else. He's done some other
Yeah,
stuff.
all over the place.
He's good.
All right, great. So I'm looking forward to these. Join us next time, and of course, we'll talk about Crisis number 10, see if that gets any better. But thank you so much for joining us, everybody. For Vince and Chris, what's going on your stupid minds? What's going on over there?
Well, it's been probably a week and a half to 2 weeks by the time you hear this episode, but we had a very special episode. We had a crossover, sort of, with another podcast we enjoy called the Square Roots Classic RPG Podcast, where one of the co-hosts came onto our show and brought the movie Ghost Ship with her. And so we talked all about bad ghost plans in an early 2000s CGI movie. And there might be more ghost ships on the way.
Nice.
All right.
Ghosts and or ships.
Very good. I love both those things. I can't wait. Thank you so much. Vince, did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
No, that's all I got. That's all I got this week.
Great. Yeah, me neither. Bye. See you later. Next time. Bye. Love you. Bye. Bye.